how do you define sustainable?
By being a good steward of the land and getting the, I'm not going to say the most, but the optimal amount of yield per acre. Not every acre can be treated the same. I mean, some acres you can really push, and some acres that you might want to put there's no reason to put the same amount of nutrients on every acre when one can only raise 150 bushel of corn, the other one has 250 bushel of corn potential. So I think it comes down to almost, you have to be smart with your inputs as well. I mean, it's just doing the best for that acre of ground is what I'm going to say. I mean, you can't treat every acre the same anymore, and technology's allowed us to really break down an acre by acre basis.
Well, Jim, you and I talked about that before. It's not about yield, it's about optimum yield, or is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I think so. And that's I mean, Brad just nailed it. I mean, you've heard me talk about optimization of yield. It's getting the most bushels you possibly can on every acre with the most efficient use of inputs. Not the least cost, but the most efficient. And that's really, really important because you can't give bushels up, but you also can't waste resources, to Brad's example, on 150 potential acre versus a 250. I think that from my standpoint, if you're optimizing yield, that means that you're using that nitrogen and it isn't going into as a greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, and it isn't going down, in my case, since in Illinois, it's not going down the Mississippi and causing hypoxia. That in essence is sustainability. So, I mean, you've got to feed a population, but at the same time, you've got to care for the environment. And I think you can achieve both at the same time.
So, Lee, how easy is this to sell to customers to talk about crop optimization in that regard? Are they more receptive to that idea now, or is it just yield?
Oh, inputs are so expensive anymore. The margins are so tight. Anytime I take an idea to a grower and show them the payoff of the cost versus the return, they're very receptive to it. And this year, you know, we're looking at lower grain prices, not sure on yields coming in yet. Looks pretty good. People have been very receptive to making applications to help ensure that their crop fights through the stresses, and that's getting bigger all the time. So it's not so hard to bring something to a grower and have them accept it if you can explain what it's going to do in the long term. And again, you got to protect your initial investment that you put out there.
So Brad, do you know your cost of production let's say to the acre, not to the bushel? Do you know it enough that you know right now you're okay, or you know where you're in trouble?
If it doesn't rain, I'm screwed. I can tell you that. Yeah, and that's what the technology. I mean, at the end of the year, I mean, we sit down. I'll sit down with the league. We come up with a farming program. Right. We know what I mean, and actually this year we had Plan A and Plan B. If it's too wet to strip till, we're coming back with 2 citrus applications to get our end there. And we base it down on a it goes for us. It's a farm by farm thing, and we know our cost per farm. We have a bunch of farms, so we farm a lot of little patches. Our average field size is probably less than 30 acres. So I mean, for us, we farm around 1,700 acres with 30-acre field size. I mean, we cover a lot of fields, but
56 to be exact.
So, not your biggest sprayer either.
What's that?
You don't put a big sprayer in those fields either. You can hardly turn them around.
So for us, I mean, technology has made our life a lot easier. To break down that acre, to break down that field, it just makes it easier. And then we know our cost. I mean, we're not going to do anything crazy because we have that technology, and we know what it's going to cost us to do that, and we know our outcome. But the biggest thing is we had a great stand, and we've taken care of our crop throughout this whole year. Yeah, we had June planted corn, but I mean, it could be our best corn we've ever had. And we've taken care of the crop just because we had the stand. Now, if we don't have the stand count, then there's no reason to go in there and spend the money that we have. But opportunity is there, and even with the low prices, our return on investment is still there.